At the end of Part 1, District 13's armed resistance was shown. But here's what they don't want anyone to know. The most powerful rebellion happening right now doesn't involve violence. It involves millions of people simply saying no and knowing their rights. Violence is what they're prepared for. They have riot gear, sound cannons, and martial law protocols. Mass non-compliance, that terrifies them. Because the truth is their entire system of control requires your voluntary participation to function. And you can revoke that consent starting today. Here's the distinction. This isn't about destroying, it's about building. Building parallel systems rooted in humanity, not control. Creating communities that thrive outside algorithmic management. Gandhi freed India without firing a shot. The civil rights movement changed America through peaceful resistance. The Berlin Wall fell when enough people simply walked through it. Here's the math they don't want you to see. If just 10% of the population opts out of biometric systems, the infrastructure becomes economically unviable. At 20%, it collapses. They need your compliance to make their system work. They can arrest 100 protesters. They cannot arrest 50 million people using cash. They can prosecute hackers. They cannot prosecute you for knowing your constitutional rights. Financial freedom starts with specific actions. First, move your money to local credit unions. Credit unions are member-owned, not corporate-controlled. They're legally required to serve members, not shareholders. Many still offer non-biometric banking. Second, use cash for everything possible. It's still legal tender they must accept. Join the growing Cash Friday movement, where millions pay cash every Friday to keep the infrastructure alive. Third, build alternative exchange networks. Local exchange trading systems, time banks, and community currencies are completely legal and operating in over 5,000 communities worldwide. Fourth, support businesses that refuse biometric payment systems. There's a growing network of human-first businesses that pledge to always accept cash and never require biometric verification. Finally, learn about constitutional banking rights. The Federal Reserve Act still requires acceptance of U.S. currency for all debts. Document any refusal. It's grounds for legal action. Now here's how to legally opt out of digital surveillance systems. For Real ID, you have alternatives. Enhanced driver's licenses, passport cards, and in some states, religious exemptions are available. The key is knowing which form to file. I'll link all of them below. For TSA facial recognition, you have the absolute right to opt out. Simply say, I opt out of facial recognition at security. They must provide alternative screening. It's federal law under the Privacy Act of 1974. For mobile driver's licenses, stick with physical IDs. No state can force you to adopt digital-only identification. The 10th Amendment protects state citizenship rights that predate digital systems. For banking biometrics, request accommodation for religious or philosophical objection. Banks receiving federal insurance must provide alternatives under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Use privacy tools that actually work. Graphene OS phones, cash-purchased VPNs, Faraday bags for devices, and mesh networks for communication outside corporate internet. Your children are the real target. They want a generation that sees surveillance as normal. Here's how to protect them. First, understand your educational rights. Homeschooling is legal in all 50 states. Over 3.7 million children are now homeschooled, up 51% since 2019. Join established networks for resources and legal protection. For public school, file biometric opt-out forms. Schools cannot require biometric data for attendance. Use Form FERPAOPTOUT to prevent data sharing with third parties. This is federal law. Refuse school-issued devices. Provide your own hardware with privacy controls. Schools must accommodate this under the Equal Access Act if you document privacy concerns. Create analog childhoods. Join the growing Childhood Unplugged movement. Over 10,000 families now raise children without smart devices until age 16, using paper, books, and human interaction. Teach children about consent and privacy as human rights. They should know they can say no to biometric collection and understand why privacy matters for human dignity. The strongest resistance happens in communities. Here's how to build yours. Start with local food sovereignty. Join or create community gardens, farmers markets, and food co-ops. These create economic networks outside corporate control while building real human connections. Form freedom cells, small groups of 8 to 12 people who support each other's sovereignty, share skills, resources, and knowledge. Over 20,000 cells now operate worldwide, completely legally. Create parallel economies using time banking, where hours equal currency. Lawyers trade with farmers, teachers with mechanics. These systems build community wealth through direct exchange of skills and services. Build communication networks outside big tech, ham radio licenses, mesh networks, And bulletin boards create uncensorable local communication. These saved lives during recent disasters when digital systems failed. Organize constitutional sanctuary towns. Over 400 municipalities have declared themselves sanctuaries for constitutional rights, refusing to enforce federal mandates that violate civil liberties, the legal rights they don't advertise. The Fourth Amendment prohibits unreasonable searches. Biometric scanning without probable cause is arguably unconstitutional. Multiple lawsuits are advancing through courts right now. The Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination. You cannot be compelled to provide biometric data that could be used against you. This includes fingerprints and facial recognition in many jurisdictions. The Ninth Amendment reserves rights not enumerated to the people. Privacy, though not explicitly stated, has been upheld as a fundamental right in Griswold v. Connecticut. And subsequent cases, Religious Freedom Restoration Act provides broad exemptions. Documented religious or philosophical objections to biometric collection must be accommodated in most circumstances. State constitutions often provide stronger protections than federal. 11 states have explicit privacy amendments. Know your state's specific protections. They're your strongest shield. Here's how we coordinate without centralization. Exactly like District 13. Use the 3% rule. Research shows only 3.5% of a population in sustained resistance has never failed to create political change. In America, that's just 11 million people. We're already past that. Share information through information cascades. When you successfully opt out, document it and share the process. Each success makes the next person's resistance easier. Create parallel institution days. If millions use cash on the same day, refuse biometrics on the same day, or homeschool on the same day, it sends an unmistakable message. Build redundant systems. Every surveillance system needs a non-digital backup for legal reasons. Use those backups exclusively. Make the expensive surveillance system worthless through non-use. Remember, they need you more than you need them. Their trillion-dollar surveillance infrastructure is worthless if people won't use it. Your non-participation is their system failure. The window for peaceful resistance is closing. Mexico's system launches in 4 months. EU digital wallets become mandatory in 2026. US Real ID enforcement begins May 2025. But here's what they didn't count on. Millions of people who remember freedom. Parents who won't let their children grow up in digital cages. Communities that choose human connection over algorithmic control. You don't need weapons to be District 13. You need knowledge, community, and the courage to say no. Every person who opts out makes it easier for the next person. Every child raised free normalizes sovereignty. The choice isn't between violence and submission, it's between compliance and sovereignty, between algorithmic control and human dignity, between their system and our humanity. Start today, move your money, opt out of one system, connect with one neighbor, teach one child about privacy. Small actions by millions create unstoppable change. Remember, District 13 won not through force, but through refusing to play the Capitol's game. Now it's your turn to choose. Will you comply or will you be sovereign?